Hello and welcome to our live about an upcoming pattern. My name is Jeanette and I am the designer behind Jeanette Knits, and today I will tell you all about an upcoming pattern release that is a new sock pattern called the Unravel Memories Socks, and they look like that. What I'll cover today is the inspiration, the gauge, needles and yarn, the techniques and construction, the sizing, talk about charts and some possible modifications, and also I'll be discussing the best way to pick colors for the best combination. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them down in the chat, and I hope to really not miss them, and I'll read them out loud and answer them as they come. So the inspiration is, well, this is part of a sock series that we've got going on called the Memory Socks, and it started last year in the Barcelona Knitting Festival when our friend Annette had the idea to get some sock yarn and make matching pairs of socks as a tribute to our time spent together there. And so this is the third edition, and this is in honor of our time at Unravel Festival in Farnham this February. So I think you can sort of hopefully look at them and feel like you're in the middle of a very busy but full of beautiful and breathtaking details. There were so many little stalls, and they were arranged in kind of this maze. Even though we went through the festival 3 times, we still felt a little bit lost and didn't know if we had been here before or not. So, which made it very exciting and a lot of fun moments, funny moments as well. So that is the inspiration side. The gauge is actually, let me just find it, 32 stitches times 40 rows in 10 by 10 centimeters or 4 by 4 inches. And I'm using a sock yarn from the Knitting Shed. This is a mini skein set called the Winterberries. In fact, all of us, we were the 4 of us who went there, couldn't say no to the Knitting Shed mini skein set. So all of us picked up the yarn from there, and we're always so taken aback by the very beautiful stall that the Knitting Shed put up, and we always have to get something from there. So yeah, these colors looked really scrumptious in the mini skein set, and I picked them up, and they all are featured fairly equally throughout the sock. In terms of needles, I use 2.25 millimeter, that is US size 1, but I guess whatever gets the gauge are applicable needles, and I use DPNs, but you can work this pattern on the circulars with magic loop as well. I think this is perfect pattern for mini skein sets. There's 5 of them, but it's also just as suitable for a bunch of leftover yarn from other sock projects. So as long as you got sock yarn, that will be suitable. What is interesting to note is that if you're going with the way the pattern prescribes, you will need 5 colors, and one of them is used in the toe, in the heel and the cuff, and the other 4 are interchanged along the foot and the leg. My advice would be to select 2 darker colors and 2 lighter colors, so that you could ensure there's always enough contrast between the pair of colors, because what's the best way to show? I don't have the original yarn because I've used it all up, but I have selected 5 sample skeins that I will demonstrate the color combination suggestion, and I've picked 2 light ones and 2 dark ones and 1 undecided whether it's light or dark. I don't know. I guess this one also could be a light or dark, but I've put it in the dark bucket. So I would use the one that's undecided as the toe, heel, and cuff color, and combine the sort of insert the dark, then light, then dark, then light, and you can make the first set of these 2, the next set of these 2, the third one of these 2, and then just keep adding from the bottom to the top, and you will never run into a issue where you don't have enough contrast. That's the way I picked the colors and I combined them, and I think it would work with any too dark, too light combination, as long as they together fit well. And I think this one works quite well because they're all sort of cool. But I suppose don't be afraid and use a funky accent color somewhere. Like I've used here the yellow. It's called Fool's Gold, and it's quite warm and it adds a really nice accent. So that's why I loved about this mini skein set. Yeah, the world is your oyster, I suppose. That's just one way if you want to go by the book, so to speak. But I think a subtler accent, a subtler contrast could also work and create a set that is not as busy and not as screaming, but more subtle and still like delicate. Or a really interesting version would be just in 2 colors, like a black and white theme going on. So yeah, I think that can bring us to the bit that I wanted to mention about the charts. So typically in our patterns, I include a chart for a lighter main color with a darker contrast and a darker main color with a lighter contrast. But this time, because there's so many colors going on, it would just be, yeah, it was too tricky even for me to figure out what would be what exactly that means. But there was a brilliant suggestion by one of the test knitters to include a mirrored chart, so I have done that, so that you could make mirrored socks. I didn't, and my socks are facing the same way, so the pattern goes the same way, but if you wish to do mirrored, that way when you wear them, the lines go in the same direction, and that also looks cool. One thing that you could do is maybe start at the 19th, because this just gets repeated throughout the sock as you knit. So you start at the first round and knit all the way up to the 36th, and then you start again. So for example, if you wanted to mix it up and start with a darker section first, you could start with row 19, for example, and then knit all the way up to 36 and start from the beginning then, from row 1. So that would make the sock slightly different as well, or you could skip some sections of the chart altogether and make a completely new variation of the sock. The pattern allows for that as well. It doesn't specifically say that, but I think that's what you could do. Sizing. I didn't mention the sizing. So as usual, this sock comes in 3 sizes, 1, 2, and 3. And it comes with schematic with measurements, so you can pick the size that's most suitable for your foot circumference. The length of the foot is easily adjustable. It tells you how far you should work before you start the gusset. So of course, I didn't mention that they're worked from the toe up. We start with Judy's Magic Cast On. It can be substituted with Turkish cast on or whatever other circular cast on you prefer. Judy's Magic Cast On is my preference, so I'm using that for almost all of my toe up socks. And then when we get to the instep, we just work even in the round, and then we reach a place where we start the gusset. So it's quite easy to adjust the length of this section here, which will adjust the length of the foot. There is a blog post that we've done that this is in detail describes how we determine this spot in case your row gauge doesn't quite match the pattern. So if the difference of your row gauge is significant, then perhaps it's worth having a look at that blog post. But if it's in the ballpark same, then it's probably not worth bothering, and you can just go by the measurement I suggested there. It says start the gusset. The length of this is calculated in the pattern for you. So we increase for the gusset, and then we work a heel, a short row shape at the bottom of the heel, and then work a reinforced heel flap like so, and then finally we join back in the round and work the leg straight. There's no shaping in the leg. One thing to note about these is that the leg has more stitches than the foot. That is because this is a colourwork sock, and I find that it's quite hard to get my foot through because colourwork doesn't have as much give, and I find that it fits a little bit better if the leg has a little bit more stitches than the foot. And finally it's finished with a 1x1 twisted rib. I think the cuff could be a bit longer, but I made sure that I use up all of the contrast yarn, all of the yarn of this color, and this is how much I had left for the cuff. So if you have more yarn, you can make more. That's basically the determining factor for the length of these socks, was how much yarn I had, that is easily adjustable as well. But because there is no shaping, you probably can't go over the knee or thigh high unless you do some calculations and add some stitches to increase the circumference. Right, so I think I have covered everything, apart from the fact that we are also running a little giveaway on Instagram only. So in our Sunday's post about these socks, we are partnering with the Knitting Shed, who are offering, well, I have it here, but you'll just have to believe me because it's packed very nicely and I don't dare to unpack it, but is the original set of mini skeins that were used, and we will gift it to a lucky winner along with the pattern. And so all you gotta do is head to our Instagram post of Sunday and read the rules for entering and do all those things, and we'll announce the winner tomorrow, which is also the official release date for this pattern. And so if you are a newsletter subscriber, watch out for the email that will contain your exclusive code for a bigger discount than the rest, but there will be an introductory sale for everybody, and so watch out for the announcement tomorrow on Instagram and other channels, and you can get it on Ravelry, Etsy, or zanettknits.com as usual. And we really can't wait to see your color combinations, because this is a true color play and stash buster project. And I don't know about where you are, but it's become, here in the UK, we've all of a sudden found ourselves in winter. It's so cold outside and I'm wearing a sweater. So yeah, by the way, I'm wearing a Zalktis sweater that I designed a couple of years ago, or 1 year ago. Time is become elusive, but it's in spin cycle yarns, and the contrast color is dyed in the wool, and it's a color changing color, ombre, the gradient, however you call it. And this is their recycled metamorphic base in cool black Asmade color. And it's my only, no, it's not true, one of my raglan colourwork garments that I had actually left in Latvia for the last 3 months, and I was wondering what had happened to it. But I went there and I found it, and I was so relieved, so I can't take it off now. But I digress. So yeah, that's it. The Unravel Memories Socks pattern is coming tomorrow, and we are very excited to share it with you. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you next time.